I'm Alapur, but I go by Maddie. So this first part of my video is gonna be talking about like my honest reaction to like the readings of this case study that we are learning about. So like my first initial thought, I guess, was like how different these cultures actually were and like how their practices and rituals were compared to like my own or ones I've seen. I never like initially thought that the cultures did like all these different and like weird things from what they're so different from what I initially knew. And so that just like genuinely surprised me. I knew that every culture had different practices, different rituals, but I guess I never really thought about how different they truly were. I think American culture in this article just shows how different like we are, I guess. I think we're depicted as we never fully understood or understand as it is practices of other cultures, or to the full extent of it at least. I think as Americans, we pretend like we know about these cultures, but truly we don't. And I think we like criticize or unintentionally hurt these cultures because we don't fully understand them. So like a ritual and practice that I do in my culture, or like in my family, in my culture and family, is that I have family dinners. We have no electronics at the dinner table, and we just enjoy the presence of one another. These family dinners is a time for my family to bond and connect with each other and socialize, because we have such busy lives and such busy days that it's hard to like get to communicate and get to socialize. Another practice of mine is attending church, and that seems basic, but it is. I attend chapel every Monday here, and occasionally on Sundays when I can get rides. As well as back home, I go on Sundays when I'm home for breaks and over the summer. And before this year, I attended youth group every Wednesday night at my church. I spend time reading my Bible at night because this is my ritual before I go to bed, is I read my Bible and spend time with the Lord. I turn on my worship music and connect with God, because that is my daily thing. These practices may seem common to my culture, but in other cultures it may seem different. Like they may see my daily time with God as not enough, or that I have music while I spend time with him, so I'm not worshiping him correctly. Other cultures who don't believe in God may see this ritual as like, I guess, a waste of time, or weird because they don't have the same beliefs as I do. So like this ritual that I do is different than others, and we have to learn that. The communication pattern in my family dinners ritual is important and is related to the US worldview, because many families have such busy lives, just like my family does, with sports, extracurriculars, work, and school. And it's just, that's how my family is, but we make the time because it is part of who we are and who we want to be. These practices that I have are different and have changed throughout history, because before there wasn't any worship music you could just download on your phone and turn on whatever you please. They didn't have that option as I do. They never had what we have now. Before, people had to play their own music or listen to someone else play music, but now we live in such a modern world that we can kind of just turn on whatever and do it, because we live in such an advanced world now. A long time ago, family dinners didn't even like exist. Like you didn't just sit down, have a meal, and do all that. And now they do. Our generation has evolved and has become more of a thing. However, in this era right now, it's become less of a tradition, I've noticed. Like the chaotic schedules just make it so difficult for these families to get together. And so I notice like when I go somewhere, like another friend's house or something, they don't do this because most of their family's not even home when I'm there during like the traditional like dinner time. So they all just are sporadic. My other tradition my practice of going to church and worshiping the Lord is different from before too. Many gathered in small groups and talked about God outside of Sunday service, but now like I go to big community churches like on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, even Sundays. Like, we have all these options on nights to be able to worship the Lord. And I think that's so different because of how big these communities are, like hundreds of people compared to like when it was just few people. And Christianity has just evolved so much, and it's making such a big change in the world. If I had to like evaluate these changes that have come from my practices and rituals, I would say there are some positive changes, but there's also negative. Like family dinners, those are negative. Like we don't, like, I say this because the less families that are having dinners with like each other, they're not getting the chance to connect and socialize and be like with their family. They're not getting as connected with one another. This family dinners, like, they're not supposed to be a burden or a chore or something that you just have to do. They're supposed to just help your family connect and socialize and get to be in the presence of one another. I think, however, there is a positive change with the Christianity aspect in that practice and ritual. We've like developed such a big group of people, and I have made such great connections in this way. From all the gatherings I've been to and the worship I get to do, and I get to worship the Lord proudly and not be like ashamed of it because of how big the community has been. And I love being able just to close my eyes and praise the Lord and like worship with all my fellow friends. Like, it's awesome because you don't have to no longer be like ashamed or feel embarrassed to worship Him. So I think overall, like, that change has been such a big impact in our world. And I think from reading this case study, I think I've learned that everybody has their own rituals, and in those like cultures, they make sense. But like, we have to understand one another's cultures, because if someone didn't understand what my practices, my rituals were, like, I would get offended. I know I would. So I need to learn how to understand someone else's so I don't accidentally offend them.